Question number 7 is, what funky family traditions did you have growing up? Oh my God. I don't know. Um, it depends what you mean by a tradition. Like a holiday tradition, or like something that you guys used to do, or this is another one of those questions that there's so many layers to, I don't even know. Trying to think of something that would be like uniquely my family. Um, One thing that's kind of funny, and I was actually talking to my cousins about it. My cousins recently came up for, unfortunately, for a funeral, and we all got together and hadn't seen each other for years. And they spent summers up at my grandparents were next door to where I grew up, and so they spent summers with us and to be with their grandparents and my grandparents, our grandparents, and we spent a lot of time together, and I was the youngest, so they have a lot of memories of taking care of me as a baby and a 2-year old and a 3-year old, and they were much older. And one of the things that we talked about was we used to put up the firewood in the summer, so we would have to stack the firewood. So my dad would cut down trees on the property. We lived on huge wooded property, and he would cut down trees in the woods. We drive this old pickup truck down into the woods, and we would cut all of the firewood, and he would stack like certain sized logs like on the tailgate, and then the smaller like kindling wood we would throw into the truck. But we would carry it, he would split it up, and he'd like motion for us like, no, no, like that one's, let me cut that one up, I'll make that one smaller. And he'd cut it into like the splitted, you split the logs, and we would stack them on the tailgate. We'd go pick up all of the wood. And as he was cutting the branches off of it and stuff, and he'd make brush piles and he'd throw the sticks over. And we always had like a thermos full of ice water, usually spring water. We had these little paper cups. And so we could go get water. And he would always bring like little candy bars. We'd have like little candy bars, and we'd have like this thing of water, and we could have these as like our little snacks in between, like, and we would just go like load up the wood, and then we'd come back and he would unload it onto the wood pile, and then we would drive back down in and get another load, and then we would usually all go out for ice cream after. So that was one of the like traditions that we used to have in the summertime. The other thing is that we used to take our vacations. We never flew anywhere or took boats anywhere. We would always drive. So we would drive to South Carolina. So from Maine to South Carolina, we would drive every year for our family vacation. And we would get to stop at all of these places along the way. So it wasn't just like flying from Maine to Florida. Like we would drive all the way down or drive all the way down to South Carolina. So we would get to stop at all of these little towns along the way. So I've actually seen a lot of the East Coast and eaten in a lot of little diners and rest stops and sites along the way. We would always plan like a few little things that we were going to do along the way. One year we stopped in DC, and we did like 3 days in DC and did like the art museum and the zoo. And it was when the pandas were there and things like that. So we used to drive for our family vacations, which is probably why I love road trips, although I do love to fly. Um, And the other weird thing that we used to do is that we didn't have a fireplace, and we would hang our Christmas stockings on this homemade gun rack that my dad had built this gun rack. He did a lot of hunting and stuff. This was the 70s. And we had a gun rack, and we would hang our stockings off like the knob of the stockings when they were empty. And then when they were full, they would be like placed on the couch with, they were usually overflowing with little presents and stuff around them too. But we would wake up on Christmas morning and they would all be over on the couch. But before we went to bed on Christmas Eve, we would hang them on a gun rack. Can't believe I'm admitting this stuff on the internet. I love you guys. Take care. Comment below. What were your weird family traditions?